For years later, shocking truth behind Washington couple's mysterious camping vanish exposed. The forests of Washington whisper secrets, their thick, green canopies hiding mysteries that creep beneath the surface. 4 years ago, a couple vanished without a trace, leaving behind only echoes of their laughter and an abandoned camping van. The locals had their stories: wild animals, rogue bandits. But no one could explain how two people could simply evaporate into thin air. Caleb and Mia had been adventurers at heart, always chasing that next thrill. Friends would say they were inseparable, two pieces of a puzzle. The night before they left, they hosted a gathering that felt charged with unspoken tension. It was as if the universe itself warned them, something dark lay ahead. Their friends noticed their unease but shrugged it off. Everyone has jitters before a big trip, right? But the glint in Mia's eye that night, mixed with Caleb's tight smile, painted a different picture. Something was not right. As they set up camp in the shadow of the imposing Cascade Mountains, strange occurrences began to unfold. Campfire stories morphed into frantic whispers. The flickering shadows played tricks on their eyes. Was that a rustle in the bushes? A howl that echoed long after the night had turned silent? Early reports noted mysterious lights in the sky that same week, bright and erratic. Were they UFOs? Or maybe something even more sinister? The entire town buzzed with rumors, forming an electric knot of fear and intrigue. What happened to the van that night? When search teams scoured the area, it was discovered not only was it left unlocked, but inside, it was strangely pristine: a half-eaten sandwich wrapped neatly, Mia's favorite book untouched on the front seat. What kind of couple leaves behind their belongings in a hurry? Friends insisted they would never leave without a trace. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue, back to that haunting night. Searchlights swept across the jagged terrain, but no signs of life. Locals spoke of ghostly figures flickering between the trees, almost taunting the rescuers. Were they real? Or just illusions birthed from too much fear? As the days bled into weeks, the case grew cold, but the mountains still watched, as if holding their breath. Even after 4 long years, debris and remnants of their campsite emerged, items that spoke of a life interrupted. A torn-up map, a soggy journal page with scrawled handwriting that whispered of panic. That chilling line, "I can't shake the feeling we're being watched," raised more questions than answers. Who or what were they fleeing from? The truth danced on the edge of discovery, drawing closer with every passing moment, yet remaining just out of reach. What really happened to Caleb and Mia, and what secrets did the woods keep hidden? The wind howled through the trees, carrying with it the whispers of forgotten tales and unresolved mysteries. It had been 4 years since Caleb and Mia had vanished, and still, the dark forest seemed to guard its secrets fiercely. But fate was about to intervene. As the anniversary of their disappearance approached, local reporter Jenna Mitchell, determined and relentless, decided it was time to dive back into the story that had haunted her town for years. Armed with fresh hope and an unquenchable thirst for answers, she gathered all possible leads, reviewing the old reports, interviews, and investigator notes. "There has to be something we missed," she muttered to herself, her eyes darting over grainy photographs of the couple, forever frozen in time as they smiled against a sunlit backdrop. But more than their smiles, Jenna focused on the shadows lurking behind those smiles, the uncertainty that hung in the air like a thick fog. She revisited the campsite, her heart racing as she approached the area where Caleb and Mia's van had been found. The ground was still scarred from the countless searches. Even the air felt charged, as if the forest itself was aware of her presence. Suddenly, something caught her eye: a scrap of fabric caught on a low-hanging branch. Heart pounding, she stepped closer, carefully inching towards it. It was frayed and torn, a remnant of clothing, perhaps. But then a peculiar scent wafted through the air, a mix of damp earth and something metallic. Jenna stumbled backward, her instincts screaming at her to leave, but curiosity held her tight. Despite the discomfort tightening in her stomach, she managed to take a closer look. This wasn't just any piece of fabric, it was part of a jacket she recognized. It belonged to Mia. A chill ran down her spine. Had someone else found it before her? Panic twisted in her gut. Why was this here? Jenna whipped out her phone to snap a picture. As she did, her foot struck something hard. She bent down, brushing away the dirt and leaves to reveal a small metal box, thoroughly rusted but still intact. She hesitated, the gnawing sense of danger flickering in her mind. But the allure of the unknown tugged at her more fiercely. With trembling hands, she pried the lid open. A flood of musty air wafted out, and she gagged slightly at the stale smell. Inside, she found more than just remnants. It was a collection of personal items, a bracelet that mirrored the one Mia wore, crumpled photographs of people Jenna didn't recognize, and scrawled notes that made her blood run cold. One note read, "They are watching us. We can't stay here." Each word echoed in her mind, her heart thudding like a drum. Was this what Caleb and Mia had experienced? Were they being hunted? A sudden rustle came from deeper in the woods, jerking Jenna from the depths of her thoughts. She wasn't alone. Her pulse raced as she stared into the dark foliage, dread washing over her. "Is someone there?" she called out, voice quavering. Silence enveloped her, heavy and foreboding. Then, a shadow moved between the trees. Jenna's instincts kicked in, but she couldn't simply run. What if it was what she had been searching for? She took a step back, adrenaline coursing through her veins, but what would she discover? Was it safety or danger waiting just beyond the trees? And how deep did the mystery truly run? Jenna wasn't ready to leave without answers. With her heart pounding, she remembered the chilling note, "They are watching us." But who were they? The answers she sought were slipping through her fingers like sand, but she was determined to find them, no matter the cost. Jenna's breath caught in her throat as the shadow emerged from the thicket. It was a figure, tall and cloaked in a dark jacket, much like the torn fabric she had just discovered. The forest had fallen to a suffocating quiet, every heartbeat echoing like a hammer against metal. "Who is there?" Jenna shouted, her voice shaking. "Show yourself." The figure remained still for a long moment, a ghost against the backdrop of gnarled trees and fading daylight. Then, as if deciding something essential, it stepped closer. Jenna's heart raced. Was this one of the people from the photographs, or just someone ending up in the forest at all the wrong times? "I'm not here to hurt you," the figure called out, voice low and barely above a whisper. "I'm trying to help." The words churned in Jenna's mind. Help? Could she trust this stranger, or was this another trap? She had come searching for truth and instead found a haunting confrontation. "What do you know about Mia and Caleb?" she pressed, her heart blooming with desperate hope. The figure hesitated, then lifted a hand, revealing a face obscured partially by shadows. When it stepped into the light, Jenna gasped. It was a young man with intense eyes that had seen too much, fear skin deep. "I know where they are," he stated flatly, the weight of his words pressing heavy against her chest. Jenna's pulse thrummed in her ears, lifting her into a slight daze. "Where?" she demanded. "What happened?" He glanced around, paranoia etched on his features. "Not here." "Not safe," he muttered, urgency rising in his voice. "Follow me. I can explain everything." Fear danced on the edge of her mind, but Jenna felt an unyielding urge to know more. The metal box, the notes, the fear of being watched, it all pointed to something far darker than she had imagined. "Okay, lead the way," she finally said, her resolve sinking with her racing heart. They moved deeper into the forest, each step pulling her further from the campsite and deeper into a realm of uncertainty. The trees loomed like sentinels, their branches clawing at the fading light as if trying to keep the secrets hidden. The young man looked back at her repeatedly, casting worried glances over his shoulder as if something pursued them. "Do you have proof?" Jenna asked, needing some tangibility amidst the tension. Proof that they're alive. He didn't respond immediately, quickening his pace. Jenna noticed how he kept one hand gripping a small object at his side, an unmistakable, circular pendant, looking hauntingly like the one Mia had worn. Wait. Jenna hurried to catch up, her curiosity brimming over with suspicion. Where did you get that? He paused, eyes flicking to hers, a flicker of conflict crossing his features. You need to understand. I wasn't supposed to be here. They didn't want anyone to find me. A shiver ripped through Jenna as she processed his words. The fear cut deeper than the chill in the air. If someone was keeping secrets, who were they, and what did they want from her, or from Mia and Caleb? Just tell me what you know. She pleaded, desperation spilling into her voice. The young man turned abruptly, fear now consuming him. Listen, if I tell you everything, it could put us both in danger. The atmosphere shifted, a tension so thick Jenna could barely breathe. Her thoughts raced, wondering if she had made a mistake trusting him. Was he leading her into a trap? Or was he unveiling the truth behind years of silence? Before she could voice another question, a sudden crash echoed from the forest behind them, and the underbrush rustled violently. Jenna's heart raced, instincts screaming that whatever was lurking was no friend. The young man's expression hardened. Run! And just like that, they were plunged into chaos, each step away from the unseen terror drawing Jenna deeper into the mystery of what had happened to Caleb and Mia and what awaited them in this chilling chase through the darkness. Who were they, and what danger awaited in the shadows? The answers felt tantalizingly close yet unbearably far. Would she find the truth before it was too late? Branches snapped underfoot as Jenna sprinted after the cloaked man, her breath coming in sharp gasps. Adrenaline coursed through her veins, fueling her flight. The darkness thickened around them, wrapping like a suffocating shroud. Shadows twisted, and every rustle seemed like a monster waiting to pounce. Where are we going? She shouted, panic creeping into her voice. Just keep running. He urged, glancing back as if the forest itself were alive with eyes. She could see the fear etched on his face, the urgency pressing his features into a grimace. The underbrush was relentless, slapping at her legs. Each fleeting moment made her doubt her decision to follow him. She felt exposed, vulnerable, as if every step pulled her away from safety. But the thought of Mia and Caleb kept her moving, igniting a flicker of hope in the dark. They reached a small clearing where moonlight cut through the branches, casting eerie shadows. The young man halted abruptly, gripping the pendant tightly as he surveyed their surroundings. We need to stop here. Catch our breath. Why? What's chasing us? Jenna panted, still scanning the trees. The anticipation of something horrible made her skin prickle. It's not just anyone, he replied, his voice trembling with gravity. They are always watching. We can't be out in the open. Who are they? Jenna pressed, frustration blending with fear. And what do you know about Mia and Caleb? He hesitated, running a hand through his disheveled hair. I was part of what happened. I didn't want to be involved. They dragged me in, and now I know too much. What do you mean, part of it? Fresh dread coiled in her gut. 4 years ago, I was there the night they disappeared. I tried to make sense of it, but it's more complicated than you understand, he whispered, eyes darting around as if he heard something just beyond the veil of trees. Jenna's heart thudded loudly in her chest. Tell me. You can't just drop that bombshell and expect me to be okay with it. I didn't know they'd even gone camping. I thought it was just a rumor until I saw the photographs and the videos. They were part of something bigger, something dark. What? What were they part of? Her voice was a whisper now, laced with disbelief. Before he could respond, a low, growling sound rumbled through the darkness, echoing off the trees. It was primal and threatening, and Jenna's pulse quickened. The young man's expression shifted from fear to sheer terror, and he grabbed her arm, attempting to pull her deeper into the thicket. We need to go. Now. They dashed back into the shadows, the growl morphing into an unsettling rustle that chased them, almost alive. Jenna's mind raced with questions, but there was no time for answers. Panic clawed at her throat as they zigzagged through the dense underbrush. What is it? What's following us? An organization that wants to keep the truth buried. There are people who can't be found, people who were never meant to disappear. The urgency in his voice sent icy shivers spiraling down Jenna's spine. She had believed she was chasing a simple truth, but now it felt like a dark labyrinth, and she had no idea how deep it went. They stumbled upon an ancient, crumbling stone structure half hidden by overgrowth, the moonlight glinting off something shiny perched atop the stones. Inside. We can hide there. He shouted, pulling her toward the entrance, but just as they turned, a figure, silhouetted against the moonlight, emerged from the shadows. Stop right there. Jenna froze. Fear clawed at her throat, a harsh reminder that the night held secrets even darker than she had feared. Who are you? She cried, panic flooding her voice. And then, just like that, her world twisted again. She didn't know if this figure was a savior or a nightmare. Would the truth be their salvation, or would it plunge them into an even darker abyss? Jenna's heart raced as the figure stepped closer, the moonlight revealing a face she never expected to see. It twisted her stomach, a mixture of recognition and sheer horror. Gary, she whispered, her mind struggling to comprehend the situation. Put your hands up. He demanded, his voice low but commanding. He wore a badge that glinted menacingly, and a holster hung at his side. Jenna's knees felt weak. What are you doing here? She managed, desperation edging her tone. The young man beside her was frozen, his eyes wide as he processed the looming presence of someone who had once been a friend. I'm here to make sure you don't get hurt, Jenna, Gary replied, his eyes darting toward the shadows, as if he expected something to leap out at them. We're not safe. Not here. Safe from what? She pressed, unable to peel her eyes away from him. She wanted to feel reassured, but all she sensed was danger. From them, he snapped, glancing past her as if he could see the horrors that lurked within the dark trees. You have to trust me. I'm here to help. The forest grew still, eerie quiet enveloping them like a thick fog. Jenna could almost hear her own heartbeat hammering in her ears. But I thought you were on their side. The people who? They're not the people you think they are. You're in over your head, Jenna. The urgency in his voice cut through the haze of fear. She took a deep breath, stealing a glance at the young man beside her, whose panic seemed to shift into determination. Gary, he broke in, his voice steady despite the chaos. You have to tell us what you know. We don't have time. Gary's eyes narrowed, weighing them with scrutiny. He knew this was a moment of choice. Fine. But if we're going to survive tonight, we need to move. There's a place, a safe house. It's just on the other side of the creek, he said, pointing back into the depths of the forest. Are you sure we can trust you? Jenna asked, the words spilling from her lips as doubt bubbled up inside. Look, I don't have time for this, Gary snapped, the tension spiking in the air. Either you come with me now, or we all end up dead. Your friends Mia and Caleb are in danger because of the truth. Don't you want to find them? The mention of Mia and Caleb sent a fresh wave of dread crashing through her. Jenna's thoughts flickered back to their faces, the laughter shared, and the promises made. She couldn't back down. Not now. Okay, let us go, she said, determination settling over her fear like a heavy blanket. As they began to move, the growling sound returned, not from behind but circling them now, more menacing. Jenna felt the hairs on the back of her neck stand up as the unseen presence seemed to close in around them, a predator stalking its prey. Run! Gary shouted, and they bolted, the trees rushing past as panic surged within Jenna like wildfire. They sprinted toward the creek, the wild tang of earth and wet leaves filling her senses. Each footfall pounded against the ground, resonating with urgency. Behind them, branches cracked, and she could feel the growl evolving into something more vicious, a warning of the danger hot on their heels. "Get down!" Gary yelled, and they all dove to the ground just as the darkness erupted around them. A shadowy figure burst into the clearing, and Jenna's breath caught in her throat. It was tall and twisted, like something born from nightmares. "What is that?" she gasped, dread pooling in her stomach. "This isn't over." The cloaked figure growled, its voice a chilling echo, ricocheting through the clearing. Jenna's pulse raced as she grasped desperately for clarity in the chaos. As the figure turned to look their way, an infection of panic spread through her. The young man clenched her hand, their eyes locked for a split second before they scrambled away from the sheer horror of it all. What would happen if they couldn't reach safety? Would the truth emerge, or would they become part of the darkness themselves? The night felt endless, the chase had just begun, and Jenna couldn't help but wonder what awaited them beyond the safety of the trees. Jenna's heart raced as they scrambled through the brush, the echo of the growl still haunting their ears. The figure had vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving them trembling in the harsh moonlight. The night felt alive with terror, the shadows moving in ways that made her question her own sanity. "Keep moving," Gary urged, pulling them forward. They crossed the creek, cold water splashing up around their ankles. Jenna felt the icy shock surge through her, a stark contrast to the heat of fear pooling in her chest. Every step brought them deeper into the darkness. "What is going on?" the young man finally managed, his voice quivering under the weight of their growing dread. "Who was that?" "Not now," Gary snapped, glancing back, squinting into the night. Jenna noticed that the bravado in his voice was starting to slip, a flicker of fear igniting in his eyes too. Jenna shook her head, her mind racing. "You said something about Mia and Caleb. What do you know about them? Are they safe?" "Safe? Nothing is safe right now," Gary replied, a bitterness coating his words. "Mia and Caleb are caught up in something bigger. It's dangerous. If we're to save them, you need to realize what is really going on." Jenna's breath caught. "What are you talking about? Just tell me." "No one can be trusted," Gary said, urgency cutting through his tone. "Not even your friends. It's all connected. They've been compromised." The woods felt like they were closing in on her, thick with fear and confusion. "Compromised? What do you mean?" Jenna stumbled over a root, her focus drifting as dread clawed at her insides. "Just focus," Gary barked. "We need to get to the safe house. There is something there that can help us." Jenna exchanged a glance with the young man beside her. For a moment it was as if they shared the weight of reality crashing down. Nothing was what it seemed, and trust was crumbling like the ground beneath their feet. Suddenly, the growl returned, this time much closer, resonating through the trees. The chilling sound sang a note of impending doom. "Run!" Gary shouted. They bolted once again, hearts pounding in sync as they dashed through the underbrush. The light from the moon barely penetrated the canopy above, shadows dancing around them like wraiths. Twigs snapped underfoot, echoing their urgency, while the growl morphed into a guttural snarl, something primal and hungry. Jenna stumbled into a thicket, her shoulder catching on a jagged branch. Pain shot through her and stole her breath. She was yanked back up by the young man, urgency in his eyes. "No time. We have to go," he urged, pulling her along. The path narrowed as they closed in on a grove illuminated by a faint, flickering light. Gary broke through first, his expression shifting to one of relief mixed with disbelief. The young man followed closely, Jenna right behind. In the center of the clearing stood a dilapidated cabin, its window glowing with a weak, unnatural hue. Shadows danced against the walls, the place seeming less like a sanctuary and more like a trap. "Is this the safe house?" she whispered, a knot tightening in her stomach. "We need to go inside." "It's our only chance," Gary insisted, his voice barely above a whisper as he peered anxiously at the trees around them. But Jenna felt a different chill course through her. "What if this is another lie?" she said, panic washing over her. Are we just walking into another trap? Gary's eyes met hers, steely and resolute. There's no choice. If you want to find Mia and Caleb, you have to trust me. Before she could respond, the growl erupted again, louder and more menacing than before, sending a shockwave of terror through her. The darkness shifted, and for a fleeting moment, shadows seemed to hint at movement just beyond the trees. Get inside! Gary shouted, as the tenebrous shapes inched closer, the air thick with danger. Jenna hesitated, her heart torn between trust and fear, both clawing at her insides. But the howl that echoed through the forest left her no choice. With adrenaline igniting her limbs, she dashed toward the cabin, her instincts screaming at her to survive. What awaited them inside? Would the revelations they found shatter their world even further? The door creaked ominously as she stepped over the threshold, a heart-stopping question echoing in her mind what dark truths lingered within those walls. The air inside the cabin was stale, thick with a sense of foreboding. Jenna stepped cautiously over the threshold, heart pounding like a drum, her mind racing with relentless questions. The flickering light came from a single lantern hanging from the ceiling, a glow that felt both reassuring and ominous. Close the door! Gary yelled, as the young man pushed it shut behind them, the heavy thud echoing through the small space. The walls felt as if they were closing in, the dim light casting long, anxious shadows that danced unnaturally along the floor. Did we lose it? The young man asked, scanning the corners of the room, eyeing every shadow as if it might spring to life. For now, Gary replied, taking a deep breath as he leaned against the wall, trying to catch his composure. But we won't have long. The cabin was filled with remnants of a life left behind. An old wooden table stood in the center, covered with yellowed papers and strange markings. A worn-out sofa sagged against the wall, its fabric torn and faded. Dry leaves crunched under their feet as Jenna moved further into the room, drawn to the table, despite the gnawing sensation in her stomach. What is this place? She whispered, feeling as if the very walls were listening. It's a safe house, at least, it used to be, Gary replied, his eyes darting toward the window. We need to figure out what's really going on. It's not just Mia and Caleb. It's bigger than any of us. Jenna glanced at the papers on the table, her fingers brushing against one, revealing unfamiliar symbols etched hastily across the page. What's this? Some kind of map. She felt a strange pull, as if the markings were almost hypnotic. But fear tugged at her, urging her to step back. Paperwork from an old case, Gary said, glancing over her shoulder. I've seen this before. It relates to a network, something secretive. They've been watching people, controlling things from the shadows. Mia and Caleb got wrapped up in it, and I think they found out more than they should have. What does that mean? How do you even know this stuff? Jenna's voice broke, anxiety clawing at her throat. Gary had never shared such details before, and every revelation felt like adding fuel to an already raging fire of dread. There were whispers. People went missing. They came here to investigate. Mia and Caleb were caught in the crossfire. His voice dropped to a terrified whisper. And now we are, too. If they know we're here, the growl outside returned, loud and resonant, shaking the rafters. Jenna felt her knees go weak. What is out there? Is it following us? It's more than just that. It's hunting us, Gary said grimly. They're not alone. We need to find answers fast if we even want a chance of escaping. Before Jenna could process his words, another sound sliced through the dark, a pounding, rhythmic noise. Something was approaching the cabin. Tell me I'm dreaming, the young man muttered, backing away from the door, fear painted across his face. It'll break through. We don't have long, Gary started, but the words were lost beneath a shattering crash as the door burst inward, splintering wood flying in all directions. Jenna's instincts kicked in. Run! She screamed, grabbing the young man's hand, dragging him toward the back of the cabin. But where would they go? What would they find? Shivering, she looked back as shadows spilled into the room, a monstrous figure staring back at them, eyes glimmering with predatory intensity. Jenna's breath caught in her throat. What if the truth was darker than she could ever imagine? Go! Gary screamed, shoving them towards a small back door. It was now or never. With panic tightening her chest, Jenna pushed through the door, heart hammering in her ears. What lay outside, and would they be able to find safety in the unrelenting darkness? As the chilling growls grew closer behind them, one thought echoed in Jenna's mind: they hadn't escaped danger yet, and the real nightmare was only just beginning. The cold air hit Jenna like a slap as they burst into the night, the moon barely illuminating the thick trees surrounding the cabin. Her heart raced. Was the creature following? She barely glanced back, focusing instead on her feet pounding against the leaf-strewn ground. The young man stumbled beside her, gasping for breath. "Do you see anything?" he panted, eyes wide with fear. "No. Just keep running." Jenna's voice was edged with desperation. They veered left, crashing through the underbrush, trying to distance themselves from whatever horror had invaded their temporary refuge. A chilling howl sliced through the night, echoing strangely between the trees. The sound sent a wave of terror through her, and she pressed on, fueled by adrenaline and instinct. But the reality of their situation sunk in with each labored breath. This wasn't just a nightmare, it was real. Gary was behind them, yelling something she couldn't quite make out. She turned to see him struggling to keep up, eyes darting around, searching for any signs of danger. "We need to find somewhere to hide," he shouted, his voice barely carrying over the growing cacophony of growls and guttural sounds behind them. "Over there." Jenna pointed to the thick bushes ahead, hoping they could find a place to duck down until the danger passed. They reached the brush, crouching low, panting in the darkness. It's just an animal, right?" the young man whispered, though even he didn't sound convinced. The sound of snapping branches echoed through the woods, chilling Jenna to the bone. Whatever it was no ordinary animal. "No," Gary replied sharply, his eyes reflecting fear in the faint light. "This is something much worse. I told you it's hunting us." Jenna's heart sank. She gripped the young man's arm, her mind racing back to the paper in the cabin. What had she seen? Those symbols, referring to something secretive, something sinister. What do we do? Should we go back? Her thoughts tumbled over one another. "No." Gary snapped, lancing her with a steely gaze. "If we go back, we're dead. We need to keep moving, find shelter, and maybe a way to fight back." Another howl resonated through the air, a terrifying promise of what was to come. The chills settled deeper in her bones as Jenna realized they had stumbled into a living nightmare from which they might never awaken. The distance to safety felt insurmountable. But where? What do we even have that could stop it? The reality of their vulnerability weighed on her like a heavy cloak. Those papers. Gary's eyes widened with sudden clarity. They mentioned something, some kind of weapon. "If we could get to a place where we can find it." A rustle interrupted him, closer this time. Jenna's breath caught in her throat, and she could feel the hairs on her arms stand. Shadows moved in the darkness, and the growling became more pronounced, like heartbeat drums ready to unleash chaos. "We need to run again," Jenna whispered, panic clawing at her throat. "Now." Without waiting for an answer, she took off, crashing through the foliage again, heart pounding as they fled. She barely noticed where her feet landed, focused solely on the instinct to survive. Ahead, in the sparse moonlight, she spotted a flicker. Could it be another cabin? Perhaps those mythical abandoned places from legends were more than just stories. If only they could find it. "We're almost there," she screamed, as she sprinted ahead. But doubt gnawed at her as she heard the thundering footfalls behind them. What if the safe refuge wasn't safe at all? As they drew nearer, Jenna's pulse quickened with hope and terror. The figure behind them growled louder and the sounds of the chase intensified, every heartbeat a reminder that it was closing in. They burst into a clearing, but standing before them wasn't just an ordinary cabin. it loomed tall and sinister, shrouded in dark history and a twisting aura that felt wrong. "Is this it?" Gary asked, disbelief written across his face. A shadow loomed larger, overpowering all rational thought. "We don't have a choice," Jenna said. Pushing the door open, praying they weren't walking into a worse nightmare. Little did they know, the truth was not only darker than they imagined, but also lurking within those very walls, waiting to reveal what they had gotten themselves into. What awaited them inside, and would they uncover the horror that lay behind the whispers of darkness? The door creaked, the sound slicing through the taut silence as Jenna stepped inside. Dark, stagnant air enveloped them like an oppressive weight. She shivered, scanning the dim interior, where shadows danced mockingly in the weak moonlight filtering through grimy windows. "Stay close," she whispered, her voice barely breaking the stillness, but Gary's eyes were already darting around. "Do you think it's safe in here?" he asked, apprehension tightening his throat. Jenna didn't reply. Her heart thudded in her chest with a wild rhythm that echoed the ominous growls outside. They crept further into the cabin, trembling like leaves caught in a storm. Old furniture lay tumbled and forgotten under a thick layer of dust, remnants of lives once lived. The air smelled of mildew and something else, something rotten. A low rumble shook the cabin's foundation, followed by a feral snarl that sent icy fingers of fear racing down Jenna's spine. "Quick! Look for anything we can use." Gary nodded, his face drawn tight with fear. He shuffled through a pile of debris, tossing aside rusted tools and shattered glass. Jenna moved deeper inside, pausing to study faded photographs hanging crookedly on the wall. The images showed smiling faces that looked ripe with joy, now overshadowed by the darkness that had consumed this place. "Are you finding anything?" Gary's anxious voice jolted her back to the moment. "Nothing yet," she called, the panic in her voice betraying her. Suddenly, another howl pierced the night, sharper, angrier. Whatever hunted them was here, somewhere close. Jenna's sense of right and wrong intensified. She had to keep herself and Gary alive, but the gnawing doubt in her mind screamed that they might have stepped into an arena where survival was uncertain. Rushing into a small bedroom, she rummaged through an old armoire, but it was empty. Her heart plummeted as she turned toward Gary, who had moved to a corner of the main room, inspecting a battered chest. "Maybe there is something in here," he suggested, and she rushed to his side. Together, they threw open the lid. Inside lay an array of tools, none appearing remotely useful against whatever hunted them. A rusted machete glinted faintly, catching the moonlight, a ray of potential hope amidst the despair. "It's heavy," Jenna said, gripping it tightly. "But I'll take it." Another howl rang out louder than before, shaking the walls. The growls morphing into a series of throaty growls, closer, more menacing. "Jenna!" Gary's voice was thick with fear. "We need to go." "Where?" she implored, scanning the windows, her heart sinking as she saw shadows flitting past them in the moon's haunting glow. "This feels worse than being outside." As if in reply, the thundering footsteps echoed, pounding against the wooden floor outside. The door quivered in its frame. Gary grabbed her wrist, pulling her toward the back of the cabin. "We need to find another way out." Together they sprinted through the door leading to a cramped kitchen, where broken tiles lay scattered underfoot. As they pounded towards a rear exit, the door splintered open with a deafening crash. The creature surged into the room, a hulking mass of sinewy muscles and glistening fangs, eyes filled with primal rage. "Run!" Jenna screamed, adrenaline overriding her fearful paralysis. They bolted towards the back window, which led outside, desperation fueling their limbs. But they were trapped in a thunderstorm of terror. The beast's low growl lowered their morale as it prowled between them and their escape. As they fumbled for safety, the cabin seemed to amplify the horror, every creak a reminder of their dwindling hope. Jenna's heart raced as she felt the weight of their choices settling heavily upon her. What if this place was more than a hiding spot? The air grew thick with tension as they faced the encroaching beast, and the open space beckoned, promising danger, freedom, or perhaps something much worse. Jenna! Gary shouted, grasping at her sleeve. It's coming. As the creature lunged at them, Jenna only had one chance to act, a thought racing through her mind that it could all end here, or they could discover something horrifying about the cabin that might save them, but what other dark secrets did this cursed place hold? Their survival hinged on that split-second decision, and with everything at stake, Jenna knew they were about to uncover a truth that could either save them or doom them forever. Jenna's instincts screamed for action as the monstrous creature lunged. Time slowed, and in that heartbeat, she made a choice, the only choice. She tightened her grip around the rusted machete and braced herself. Gary, now! She shouted, surging toward the back window. With the beast roaring behind them, she lunged through the opening, the jagged glass cutting into her skin. Pain ignited, but the adrenaline dulled her senses as she hit the ground outside, rolling to regain her feet. Go, go! She yelled, turning just in time to see Gary leap through, narrowly escaping the creature's snapping jaws as it crashed through the window. Short breaths escaped her as she pulled him up. They had to move, and fast. The moon hung high, casting ghostly light on the path ahead. This way! She urged, leading him into the dense woods that surrounded the cabin. They ran, their hearts pounding, mingling with the growls that echoed behind them. The darkness cocooned them like a blanket, but the sounds of pursuit fueled their desperation. Where do we go? Gary panted, urgency lacing his words. We can't keep this up for long. Just keep moving. Jenna replied, determination tinging her voice. They darted through the trees, branches clawing at their clothes, the fear of the beast igniting their every muscle, pushing them forward. The growling persisted, now mingling with something else, the distant sound of voices, whispers carried on the wind. Do you hear that? Gary asked, glancing over at Jenna, confusion flooding his expression. It sounds like people. Maybe they're at a camp. We can find help. The notion of safety ignited hope as they dashed toward the sound, legs screaming in protest. Jenna's breath caught in her throat as they broke through the underbrush into a small clearing. It was illuminated by gentle lantern light, and figures moved about, laughter spilling into the night air. Relief washed over her momentarily until she felt a chilling wave creep over her. Something wasn't right. The shadows here seemed sharper, and the flickerings of laughter twisted into something sinister. Jenna, this feels wrong, Gary murmured, his instincts wild. You think I don't feel it? She shook her head, stepping closer to the light, her grip tightening on the machete. We need to find more answers. This is our best chance. As they moved toward the camp, Jenna spotted familiar faces. It was a group of hikers from town, but their expressions were twisted into something unsettling. There was no recognition in their eyes. It was like they were staring right through her. Panic bloomed in her chest. What's wrong with them? Before she could process her thoughts, a figure stepped forward from the shadows, a tall woman with sharp features and icy blue eyes. Welcome to our circle, she said, her voice smooth, convincing. You've come looking for truth, haven't you? Jenna's instincts flared again. Where are Mia and Caleb? She demanded, her voice shaky but strong. The woman's smile widened, but it never reached her eyes. Truth is relative, dear. Sometimes, what you seek is not what you desire. Cut the riddles. Where are they? Gary quipped, stepping protectively in front of Jenna, whose heart raced with dread. They're nearby, yet they're part of something larger than life itself. The woman leaned closer, her breath cold against Jenna's skin. You should join us. Together, we can unveil the secrets of the forest. The weight of those words settled like a stone in Jenna's gut. No. We are not turning back. We will not be part of whatever this is. Fear resonated through her voice, sharp as the machete in her hand. Suddenly, the growling roared again, a terrible sound pulling both friends back to their reality. We have to go. Jenna urged, bracing her shoulders. The tormented howl brought them back to the urgent fight for survival, ripping away the illusion of safety. Stay with us. The woman hissed, her expression twisting. "You need to understand, run." Jenna pulled Gary, and they bolted back into the woods, hearts racing. The direction was unclear, but the need to escape was all that mattered. Now, they sprinted deeper into the trees, fleeing the maddening echo of the growls and whispers that gnawed at the edges of sanity. But the forest was relentless, shadows creeping around them, branches forming a twisting maze. Jenna's lungs burned, but they couldn't stop now. The promise of staying hidden was a false allure. Without answers, they had no hope. Suddenly, they burst into a new clearing. There, illuminated by the moonlight, stood Caleb and Mia, alive, but strange and different. Their faces were vacant, eyes reflecting the shadows around them. "Mia! Caleb!" Jenna cried, running toward them, heart soaring. But something in their gaze sent ice through her veins. They weren't simply lost, it was like they were part of something far darker. "Jenna," Caleb's voice echoed, devoid of warmth. "You shouldn't be here." "No, this isn't right." Gary interjected, eyes wide. "They're not themselves." Jenna hesitated, fear mingling with desperation. "Please, come back with us." She reached out, a trembling hand toward Mia, who stood stone-faced, awareness flickering like a candle before being snuffed out. "They are watching us," Mia whispered, her voice resonating coldly. "You should join us." The mention of they was the last straw. The shadows surrounding Caleb and Mia coalesced, stretching forward, whispering promises of silence and secrets. Jenna stepped back, dread flooding her senses. "This isn't right. We need to go." "Join us," Caleb echoed, his voice twisted and layered, strangely haunting. The forest rustled around them, pulsing with an eerie life, shadows closing in like a noose. With a surge of clarity, Jenna shouted, "We will not be part of this." She grabbed Gary's arm, their gazes locking in silent agreement. They turned, bolting from the clearing as shadows reached for them, a cacophony of growls and whispers enveloping their retreat. The woods erupted in a frantic whirlwind of sound behind them, but Jenna felt the adrenaline fueling her limbs. Together, they raced forward, memories of laughter and joy guiding them through the maze, heartbeats sinking as the call for truth pushed them onward. What lay beyond was unknown, the night still thick with terror, but one thing remained clear: the truth could wait. Survivorship came first, with the haven of the distant town lights glowing faintly ahead. Jenna knew that their chance to escape was born from the darkness they discovered. They could face the mysteries another day, for now, they just needed to survive, to reclaim their own lives and to find safety again. As they crashed through the tree line into the open, gasps of relief swept over them. The real fight had just begun, but they were alive. And in that moment, alive was enough. Jenna turned one last time to look back into the dark woods, heart still racing. Whatever had happened there could wait. A revival of strength coursed through her veins. They would uncover the truth. Just not today. With one foot in front of the other, they stepped into the light of dawn, ready to face whatever came next and renew her pledge to never let fear silence their voices. The story didn't end here, it was only the beginning. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next thrilling chapter. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more curious minds. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this twist. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support makes all the difference, and only true fans understand the importance. Join us on this wild adventure, and let's unravel the mysteries together.